Good Wednesday evening, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center coming on right now live with a severe thunderstorm warning in play for parts of Baker, Decatur, Miller, and Mitchell counties here in southwestern Georgia until 9 o'clock. Weather Service here watching this evolve pretty quickly here, getting some rotation even on this storm. There's a tornado possible tag. It's a pretty rural area overall, but still we have this storm that could end up getting tornado warned if the rotational organization intensifies. At 8:27, a severe thunderstorm located 9 miles north of West Bainbridge or 10 miles north of Bainbridge was moving northeast at 20 miles an hour, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, the biggest threat with this. But again, there's a tornado possible tag as well. A little bit of lightning in here too. But watching the rotation, it's kind of gotten stronger, gotten weaker right now. It's kind of in between a little bit. It's a little bit tighter here right before that warning got issued there east of El Dorado, but you still see it there. It's still holding its own, so it could kind of try to ramp back up, holding its own here, and if it ramps back up, we could potentially get a tornado warning to be issued, so we have to be on guard here. Right now, the worst of this is right on that Decatur County line that it shares with Miller, and it looks like Baker County here in Georgia. I'm talking about Baker County, Georgia, not Baker County, Florida, just to clarify. We cover both of those, just like we covered both the Clay counties there here as we're looking toward North Florida and South Georgia. We had a warning in South Georgia for Clay County. We cover more really toward North Florida when we have these situations kind of on the margins. But this one right here, a little bit more interesting because it's in an area here where we're seeing the potential for a tornado to evolve, but also it's outside of that pop-up storm type situation, so we have to be a little bit more on guard here in this type of circumstance. So you see that little hook on here? That's why we're concerned. Weather Service saying here in the chat says that the supercell structure has spun up quickly there north of Bainbridge, and it seems to be getting better organized as of 8:28 there, at least on radar. And it's a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible tag was issued. However, the northwest wind at Bainbridge calls into question. They're saying whether it is rooted in the surface-based air mass. Nonetheless, though, the north wind at Albany has sharpened the boundary that the cell is moving along here over the next hour or so. That's something to keep in mind as we watch this moving more toward Mitchell County. We'll see if it holds together. It's not as maybe as what you would say as strong of a storm maybe as what we saw earlier in the northwestern counties, the far northwestern counties there. But we still have to just monitor it because the rotation doesn't take a storm that just really looks ramped up here to produce maybe a quick spin up tornado right near sunset, a little past that now, obviously, and you're starting to kind of get more concerned because people wouldn't be able to see if a tornado was coming in their direction. So just have to be kind of mindful of that. We don't see any debris matching up with our rotational signature. Rotational signature right there under State Road 253. And we're going to just check there right now to see exactly what's going on. And I don't see anything in terms of tornado debris right now. Again, this does not look as organized here maybe as what we're seeing with the overall storm setup earlier. But it doesn't mean we couldn't get a tornado warning because all it takes is just the right rotation to show up. We're not even seeing lightning now at this point, but we saw lightning up to the north and west earlier. That was more in the daytime. I was able to maintain itself maybe a little bit longer because of that. So we'll see how this kind of sets on up. But right now we have a warning to 9 o'clock. So just going to keep that in mind here. The rotation right now only showing here 21 miles an hour away from the radar at Tallahassee and then 15 toward the radar there. Let me just make sure we're on the best radar for this. Sometimes when we jump around, and we are on the best radar, okay. Sometimes when you jump around, the distances get a little bit better on a different radar here. But Tallahassee is the best radar right now to be using here in this circumstance. So that's what we're on. Again, I severe thunderstorm warning for parts of Baker, Decatur, Miller, and Mitchell in southwest Georgia 09. Granted, this is not the most populated part of the viewing circle by any stretch of the imagination here. It is a pretty rural area, more rural than what we were dealing with earlier. That tornado possible tag kind of put me over the top to come on though, just because we want to be here if we get a tornado warning issued, if we can be in these type of situations. But this is a very rural, sparsely populated area, past rush hour now. We're talking about, it looks like 913 folks here under this warning. No schools or hospitals in it though, according to the Weather Service and their geography, and no major cities here and here. But we are getting information that areas around the community of Hopeful, I know that's an odd name, but Hopeful in this, and then also Some other ones here, really unusual type of names here. Wouldn't really be recognizable here for most, but that warning does go until 9 o'clock here. So we're just going to keep watching this move off toward the northeast at 20 miles an hour. If it were to hold together, a new warning would be required. It could move closer toward Camilla/Pelham here. So we'll be just kind of monitoring the progress of this over the next little bit. The rotation is not all that robust here. We'll go over toward our other mode on rotation tracker. It does show some here, maybe a little more than I would have thought, but this sometimes can show things a little bit better than maybe the human eye can, or also maybe behind by a frame or so doing the analysis. So, I mean, it's still in decent rotation, but not enough for a tornado warning. Earlier we had some of these reds show up here, but I'm going to go ahead and zoom out and out of the whole viewing area view. Because you see north central Florida, pretty quiet, northeast Florida here, southeast Georgia. Some of this action can move across Georgia here later on. We'll see how much it kind of makes it into Florida. Probably not going to have too much in the way of severe weather, if any at all. I mean, I don't want to rule out any type of situation here in terms of a rogue warning, but the threat seems more limited in North Florida here, as you see the margin of risk toward Georgia. We did have a significant weather advisory toward Crawfordville a little while ago. There's a wind gust potential of about 40 miles an hour in that area, but this right here is a warning for 60-mile-an-hour winds, and there's a tornado possible tag in here, so we want to be with you right now, because again, we don't get these warnings all that often this time of year. I mean, we can't get them, don't get me wrong, it's just that they're not every day. They're not every day like what we see during the summertime frame. So again, we're still with you right now. Hopefully we're going to not have to stay on as long as we did earlier on, because I mean, earlier on we had a situation that looked a little more robust, but we're going to stay with you as long as we need to be with you here on all the different platforms. As they're telling us now here in the chat, sets in the rotation with a supercell structure storm here. Northeast of Bainbridge is still broad, not that strong, and there's nothing to indicate strengthening. The structure is the main thing that caught his eye there. The meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Tallahassee issued that warning. Andrew Hayner there, Andy Hayner. But we're going to keep watching all of this here for you. Keep monitoring the situation. I know we're checking just different things here behind the scenes right now. No, we're just monitoring the grand scheme of things. And we'll go ahead and go back on over toward the broad view right now. I know Jacksonville office now talking about some stuff, so we'll gather that here in just a moment. Again, I'm just trying to give you guys the very latest here on what's happening right now. We're at about 8:43 on this Wednesday evening. Just thanks so much for watching here on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, whatever you're watching on. That's just kind of a look at all the different platforms. You can get links to the live streaming platforms there, all of them at cloudweather.com on the homepage. So just kind of running that down for you. And then we're also getting information in the chat right now. Again, from the Jacksonville office, they're saying the shells here will continue to progress eastward through midnight, roughly from a Staytonville to Homerville to Jessup line, northward with wind gusts of 40 to 50 miles an hour, locally heavy rainfall. Those are the main convective hazards. However, elevated helicity is producing some rotating cells. So we still are going to be watching here west-northwest of the Ocmulgee River Basin. So monitoring for brief tornado potential here. And obviously that's what we're doing here in the Weather Center as well. The National Weather Service offices, those are the ones in charge of issuing the warnings, and we're in constant communication with them, getting the latest here in the chat session. They're going to be monitoring for that brief tornado potential. Further south, across northeast Florida, expect more isolated and less organized thunderstorms from midnight. Then after midnight through sunrise, the more organized storms here. As we just got some updates here, they dropped the warning for Baker, Decatur, and Miller, and keeping it for Mitchell right now. But I'll go ahead and keep reading along here in the chat as we continue here. This update from Angela and Yeti. They were the National Weather Service in Jacksonville. They're saying just expect more isolated, less organized thunderstorms from midnight, and after midnight to sunrise Thursday, more organized storms are expected across the Swanee River Valley, where low-level instability noses inland from the Gulf of Mexico ahead of the prefrontal squall line there, as it settles southward across northeast Florida. So we'll be watching that here. So that's kind of interesting. We'll have to just see if anything kind of comes together tomorrow morning in some of our I guess you could call them southern counties here, maybe toward even Levy or Dixie, something like that, because some of the models of zone storms down there. I wasn't thinking we'd get too much down there, but if things come together, as the Weather Service is talking about here in the chat session, you just never know. They're saying the local wind stability is going to nose inland there ahead of the prefrontal squall line, so that could be a cause for some concern, at least enough to at least having ways to get alerts there in toward our areas. You just want to make sure you have those. I mean, just we'll go ahead and say it now. I mean, it's not a huge threat for any one spot, but just a whole area. Just make sure you have multiple ways to get alerts overnight, just to be on the really safe side here. This isn't something you have to do tomorrow night or as we get toward the weekend, but just do it tonight, just to be safe here. We don't want you to get caught off guard by a quick spin up tornado. I mean, you could have, with even a weak tornado, winds of 85 miles an hour. I mean, and that can be dangerous. That can be deadly, especially if you're in a mobile home and a spot that is not safe. I mean, or a spot in a house even where a tree could fall on you. So just be careful. It's not a huge deal, but that's something that you want to think about here as you're headed to bed tonight. So just a heads up, we haven't had any official tornado warnings yet, but we've had these thunderstorm warnings with these tornado possible tags in them. So, and what this is talking about, a couple little things we'll be watching. We'll be doing that here for you, but just make sure you have multiple ways to get alerts. I'm talking about NOAA weather radio, things along those lines here. We'll be here as well. If we need to come on, we will, of course, have ways to tune into the coverage here, be notified of our coverage, but weather radio is your best bet here, really, in these type of situations. But again, I mean, maybe weather radio and just having a way to be notified about coverage. I mean, that's two good options right there, and that does cover you with multiple ways to get alerts. But again, we're just going to keep watching things. There's other options. I mean, phones block for tornado warnings as well, generally, depending on how they're set, but make sure everything's set good on that. But again, that's to the emergency alert type of system. But you can see here, we're still watching this storm right now. It's really looking disorganized to me. We're looking, if you're wondering, northeast of Bainbridge, pretty rural area, but there are some roads out here. Looks like T. Olive Road there. Also Delwood Road over toward Delwood Church Road there. So you kind of get the idea. There's a weak rotation. This probably wouldn't be enough. If it looked like this in the next few minutes, it probably wouldn't extend this warning further on over. But you never know. I mean, there's a little bit of that structure here, which is interesting. I mean, more than a wind mode, but we'll see what they decide to do here over the next few minutes. They're probably just in a wait-and-see mode right now, I would think, of the National Weather Service in Tallahassee. So we're at 8:48 right now, another 12 minutes officially going on this warning here, but the threat isn't overwhelming per se by any stretch of the imagination. So that's the good news. But let's go ahead and go back to our other mode. You can see the marginal risk here on the board. Definitely watching that. Our biggest concerns here are wind and then hail. The tornado threat technically does not edge into our area, but there's a really, really tiny chance here for many of our zones as we outlined. So we've had tornado possible tags. So just be on guard here. You just want to be ready just in case. And real quick, we'll see some of the other areas that have warnings in play here. You see one toward east central Mississippi right now. Part of it looks like Clark County at 8:15 under severe thunderstorm warning. Northwestern Alabama, Marion County there until 8:15 had some hail with that one, golf ball size hail. Warning there in Arkansas, it looks like for Clark, Dallas, and Ouachita. And then another warning toward the south here as we get toward Texas and Louisiana, Beauregard Parish, Vernon Parish, and Newton counties. So counties, Texas, of course, and then parishes are in Louisiana. Just run down some of these warnings from the national perspective here at this hour. Flash flood warning for Lauderdale County, Mississippi as well. So just kind of running things down here. I think we covered all this with thunderstorm warnings that are in play for now, but our main focus is the one in our area. I know you don't see many towns popping up when I zoom in really tight, but you see Camilla there, full perspective over there as we get further off toward the east there as we're looking into Ward Mitchell County a bit further. So we'll see if they extend this warning or not. I mean, looking at the rotation, it actually, it looks about the same. It hadn't weakened off much more since we had it scanned beforehand. Well, now I say that we get a new scan just now, and it looks like it's actually weakened off some more. So this is probably enough for them to reissue this at this point. But again, we'll be here watching for the next few minutes. I suspect if that continues, they'll drop this But looking at storm total rainfall, you can see some areas in Seminole County getting 3-4 inches here in southwest Georgia. I know we had some heavy rain east of Orlando today. Very isolated in nature, but a spot or two there getting about 6.5 inches of rain, which is interesting to say the least. We'll go to our Florida view, and let's look at that over there, actually. That could be kind of interesting to show here. That could be kind of interesting to show everybody on our Florida view. We can kind of give you a good look at that. So you see that spot there in east central Florida. I'll zoom into it now. This is an area there with that little mustard yellow. That's over 6.5 inches of rain that fell there. And then you see Orlando downtown, no rain, so pretty much. So just interesting to see that local variability here. Of course, they had rain they didn't need down towards southwest Florida. You see areas here. I mean, look at that. I mean, there's Sanibel, 4 or 5 inches. Or at least closer to 4.5 inches. And in the area, though, our western areas definitely can use the rain. As we're looking at those 12-hour estimates, you see some areas there in that light purple there, about 2 inches in Seminole County. Again, some modes, so things a little different, but just wanted to kind of break that down, different color scales, and depending on the mode, and then the colors actually mean different things. Let's try to break that down there, because we won't see the color scales generally, the indications of what each mean, because they sometimes don't show up quite right on our system, but I might try to just put them on here because they show up enough that probably be more helpful. But I'm just going to continue to watch here. Again, we have that marginal risk in play, and we have that the thunderstorm warning here in play for the next few moments. Technically goes for another 9 minutes here. Although I know that Braves game got back underway, so that's some good news there in terms of how things may be going for baseball fans in terms of the action at least taking place. Now, we'll just kind of see how things go for the Braves in the actual game itself. You see more storms to the northwest. Hopefully, they'll hold off until the game's over. Not a guarantee, maybe, depending on how long it goes. But I know that game right now tied at 0 there in the 5th inning. So I just kind of quick baseball update there. The Braves and the Phillies NLDS game number 2 on Fox being delayed by a few hours by that rain. You see the rain there, half inch give or take up there last 12 hours. I mean, it was just enough really to kind of make things too nasty to be playing. Baseball, of course, different criteria than football. I mean, baseball, you don't want a wet field out there. Football, you can play in wet weather, but just you can't play with the lightning. So just got to think about the different criteria based on the different sports. But again, continuing to watch things. We'll see here that Severe Thunderstorm Watch still going in that Pincus area until 10 p.m. Central Time out over parts of Mississippi and Arkansas. Let's go to the satellite view now. I'll zoom in tighter here. On satellite, you can see it's not all that organized there either. So, again, I'm not as impressed by this as I was the other. And we didn't get any reporting out of that one. That other storm that we were watching further up toward Clay County, Georgia here earlier on. So, I'm not terribly concerned here. We're just at this point waiting to see what the Weather Service decides to do here, and then we'll probably wrap it up. If they were to extend this, even if I see them extend this, if I don't really see anything on my end, I'll probably just wrap it on up because we'll just kind of play it by ear here. I don't think they're going to extend this at this point because there's just not a lot here, but you never know. There's a little bit of a structure. And I'll just say that, of course, the rotations start to ramp back up a little bit again. So you just never know here. Let's go ahead and go back on over toward our other mode. You see a little bit of greens and reds trying to become a little more prominent again. So, but they're not in a good spot. I mean, really, they're displaced from the heavier rain. So that's something to kind of bear in mind. That might preclude us right there from them missing another one. Let's see if there's any type of debris in there. I'm just going to check to make sure. I mean, not right together. It's interesting because just want to make sure we don't have anything in terms of like rotation there without it being within the rain. It's kind of interesting, but I really don't think there's a lot there. But we'll watch it, of course. The radar may just not be hitting on the rain right. You never know. Different radars give you different vantage points. So that's going to be something for the Weather Service to decide here over the next few moments to see if they want to extend this or not. Look at upscale growth. There is some upscale growth in here in this box in Georgia, here in Mitchell County. So, again, we're at 854 right now. We're still watching. I mean, red winds away from the radar 30. Green, that's about 19. So that's 50 mile an hour wind that could be reaching down. I feel like that's probably not a tornadic circulation, but could be some stronger gusts here. So we'll just continue to watch there in their State Route 97 there in South Georgia. Again, watching Mitchell County right now there. until 9 o'clock. It's not a kind of a fused warning as we were dealing with earlier on either. If you're kind of wondering there. We had one that was longer and another one that was pretty long as well. They dropped in a little early, but again, we'll be watching other storms. Let's show you the accident in Miller County here. And even in Seminole County, there's a little bit of wind enhancement here south of Donaldsonville. It's more mixed in there, so maybe not getting severe criteria, but maybe some stronger winds near Donaldsonville right now. Let's put on some of our wind information. Gusts here. Gust, maybe that'll kind of help us. You see a gust of 28 earlier in Tallahassee, 20 in Albany. So just kind of give you guys an idea. It only shows in the areas that there's sites, of course. But we're just going to keep watching things, keep monitoring the situation here in the Weather Center. So there's Berrien County. See a little rogue storm there, and it's kind of on the edge of the radar. We'll watch stuff like that, but nothing that's overly impressive right now, which is some good news. But still, it's nighttime and we have rain around. But whenever thunderstorms are around, you got to make sure you're paying attention. And whenever thunder roars, you want to go indoors. So we'll be watching all that here for you in the Weather Center. It's kind of interesting to watch how we had some of this wind come through Tallahassee a little while ago. Not severe, but a little strong in nature there. We're just going to keep on monitoring the situation here. Now the latest scan doesn't really show much at all. I know there's a little angle issue sometimes you have to deal with on this. Let's check the Fort Rucker. I'm just curious what it's showing because it might help us out a little bit more here in this type of situation to give us a little different angle. We'll switch to that in just a moment. But there's your whole area view again. You see temperatures dropping some into toward the 70s now. Pretty widespread manner with the exception of our northwestern counties. Some of those down in toward the 60s now, that rain-cooled air. And that would just help to stabilize things up in that area, which would be some good news, obviously. That'd be reducing that threat here, at least in the shorter term. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on. We do have to watch for some excessive rainfall, but those areas actually do need rain. Haven't had rain in a while, so rain's a welcome sight. And you can track that there at cloudweather.com/radar when we're not actually on here with the coverage. So let's go over to our other mode now. We have our GR level 3 computer. You see the green, maybe winds at 30. That's not very organized there overall. It looks more like significant weather, significant weather advisory criteria. So that's something that we'll be looking at. And they're seeing here in the chat now the structure of the sail in Mitchell County is falling apart. So no continuation of the severe thunderstorm warning. So that's what we like to hear in the Weather Center. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up now here at 8:58 on this Wednesday. If we need to be back when we will. Of course, we're here in the Weather Center for you. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch are the methods to watch the coverage. When we're on, when we're not on, you have the auto alerts. Cloud_WX on Twitter. You also have the website, cloudweather.com, and go to that radar tab. You can look at interactive radar there and kind of get an idea of where things are, where they're headed. You can even look at some model guidance there on the home page as well. This warning's about to go off. We're just going to go ahead and wrap it up now, though, because they've said they're going to take it off the board. So thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me. We'll be back here from the Weather Center as necessary.